Hey everyone, today we are literally popping the hood on your own biology to look at a mechanism you rely on every single day, yet, if we're being honest, probably completely misunderstand. We're looking at the mechanical truth of sleep. Based on the frankly groundbreaking research of Matthew Walker, this explainer is going to completely change how you view daily fatigue, recovery, and what's actually happening when you finally close your eyes. We're going to treat your body like the magnificent machine it really is. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our blueprint for today's explainer. We'll be starting with the sleep pressure valve, then moving into the great caffeine deception, diving down into the genetic cost of sleep, and finishing up with the temperature trigger and optimizing your sleep architecture. All right, let's start with section 1, the sleep pressure valve, which is basically our macroscopic engine. Right now, there is an invisible, totally physical pressure building up inside your head as you sit there watching this. You see, our need for sleep isn't just some vague, fuzzy feeling. It's actually driven by a very real physical substance called adenosine. Think of adenosine as a literal mechanical pressure valve in your brain. Every single hour you're awake, this chemical progressively accumulates. And as those levels rise, so does an absolutely undeniable physical urge to sleep. It's a biological drive that you just cannot permanently outrun. And this brilliantly illustrates the exact cycle of that pressure valve. Adenosine accumulates constantly over your 12 to 18 hours of wakefulness, so by the time evening hits, that mounting urge to sleep is simply the heavy, physical weight of adenosine demanding a reset. And here is the unbending mechanical truth of it all. You cannot cheat the purge. It takes approximately 8 hours of healthy, continuous sleep to fully clear that adenosine from your brain and completely reset the machine for the following day. Moving right along into section 2, the great caffeine deception, or as I like to call it, the chemical hijack. Because now that we understand that pressure valve, we need to completely shift the narrative on your daily coffee habit. Look, we've all been there, right? You feel exhausted, you drink a coffee, you feel amazing for a bit, and then hours later, you hit an absolute wall. So why do we inevitably crash? What is chemically happening inside your brain during that process? Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast between what we think caffeine does and what it actually does. The promise of caffeine is that it provides real, sustainable, physical energy. But the biological reality? Caffeine doesn't actually give you energy at all. It merely masks your brain's adenosine receptors. It's essentially like putting a piece of black tape over the warning light on your car's dashboard while the engine just continues to overheat. Let's break down the mechanics of this hijack. Caffeine basically binds to those adenosine receptors, completely blocking the sleepiness signal, so you feel alert. But here's the catch. That adenosine, it's still building up in the background. So when the caffeine finally wears off, all of that accumulated pressure hits your unblocked receptors at the exact same time. And boom, that is the crash. Plus, get this. Caffeine has a half-life of 5 to 7 hours. That means if you have a coffee at 4 p.m., up to 50% of that active chemical is still floating around your system at 10 p.m., actively sabotaging your body's attempt to purge the adenosine. Which brings us to section 3, the genetic cost of sleep and the microscopic damage. We've looked at brain chemistry, but now I want to zoom all the way in to the absolute deepest level of human biology, your DNA. Consider the number 711. I know, it might seem totally random, but this actually represents a terrifying cellular consequence. Just 1 week of restricted sleep, and we're just talking about cutting your sleep short by a few hours a night, alters the expression of exactly 711 genes in your body. So the crucial point is not just that these genes are altered, but how they're rewired. When you deprive your machine of sleep, it actively suppresses the genes responsible for stabilizing your metabolism and keeping your immune system strong. And at the exact same time, it promotes and cranks up the activity of genes linked to chronic inflammation, cellular stress, and cardiovascular disease. When you skip just a few hours of rest, you are quite literally rewiring your own genetic code to weaken your defenses and invite illness. It's wild. Okay, on to section 4, the temperature trigger and environmental control. We've seen the microscopic damage, so now let's look at how we can actually manipulate our biology and our environment to trigger sleep onset. 18.3 degrees Celsius, or 65 degrees Fahrenheit, I want you to anchor this specific number in your memory. According to Matthew Walker's research, this is the absolute optimal room temperature to induce and maintain really healthy sleep. Because your brain actually needs to drop its core temperature to initiate sleep, and a cool room is the environmental trigger that allows that to happen smoothly. But here is a surprisingly mechanical trick to hack that temperature drop. Step 1, take a hot bath or shower right before bed. Now, I know this sounds completely counterintuitive, right? Like, why boil yourself to cool down? Well, step 2 explains it. The hot water causes your blood to rush right to the surface of your skin. So when you step out of the bath into that cool 18.3-degree room, your body rapidly expels that heat, causing your core body temperature to just plummet. Step 3, this rapid core temperature drop acts as a massive biological signal to your brain that it is officially time to shut the machine down for sleep. Let's move to section 5 and see how this all builds into optimizing your sleep architecture. How do we take all these mechanical truths we just learned and actually protect our biological machinery? All right, here are the absolute non-negotiable rules for your sleep architecture. First up, maintain a strict, consistent sleep schedule to anchor your circadian rhythm. Going to bed and waking up at the exact same time regulates your hormonal cycles perfectly. Second, you really need to avoid alcohol. While a nightcap might feel like a sedative, alcohol is actually one of the most powerful suppressors of REM sleep scientists know of. It literally shatters your dream state. Third, block artificial blue light from screens after sunset. That sharp peak of blue light tricks your brain into thinking the sun is still up, which completely halts the release of melatonin. And finally, reserve the bedroom exclusively for sleep. You want to train your brain's spatial associations so that simply stepping into that room triggers an automatic subconscious wind-down response. So I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to ponder the next time you pour a cup of coffee or decide to stay up late doom scrolling on a screen. Is your morning coffee actually fueling your day, or is it just masking an inevitable biological debt that your DNA is quietly paying for? Understanding the mechanics of your body is the very first step to mastering it. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Start respecting your machinery, and I'll see you next time.